this once. And I want to
subscribe.
Card Kaizoku.
Alright, all the leaders in OP07 have been revealed. So I thought I'd do my usual tradition of making a speculative tier list on the new leaders based on very little information about the rest of the set, based purely on the leader effects of the leaders and based on past support for the leaders. So that should be fun. Sometimes I'm on the mark, sometimes I'm completely off. That's the fun in the speculative tier list, I guess. So we'll start off with the first leader here. Dragon is a mono red leader with 5000 power and 5 starting life. He's a revolutionary army leader. His leader ability reads, activate main once per turn, give up to a total of 2 of your currently attached Dawn to one of your characters. So he's very similar to starter deck 1 Luffy, except that instead of rested Dawn, he uses attached Dawn. But he does let you utilize 2 of it instead of 1. So that means he gets more value if you have a character already in play to utilize. And then, as with any red leader, you'll get compared to Zoro, where 1 Dawn on Zoro gives 1k to every character on board, essentially meaning that if Zoro has 2 characters on board, you get just as much value out of Zoro as you would Dragon here, as it's plus 2k more power than you would have normally gotten both ways. But having access to attached Dawn does give him some lines of play that aren't available to Zoro and Luffy. One thing you can do is with like this OP05 Chaka, you can swing with your leader for 7 and then put 2 Dawn from your leader onto Chaka, who can swing for 8, and then Chaka can put that 2 Dawn onto another character, essentially giving you 6k extra power for the turn. But that does require Chaka being able to attack, so on the turn that you play him, you can't really activate the sequence. But with this new dragon that they printed, this SR dragon, 8 cost 9k power, you can do some pretty fun shenanigans with him. He has Rush innately for free, and then on play you can give your leader up to one of your characters up to 2 rested Dawn. So what you can do is play him for 8, give 2 rested Dawn that you used to play him to your leader. Your leader can swing for 7, and then you can use your 2 attached Dawn on your leader to give it to this 8 cost dragon that lets him swing for 11k. So on the turn you play him, you can just get 4k extra power out of nowhere, allowing you to swing for 7k and 11k. And then one other viable way to play Dragon is that he is a Revolutionary Army leader. So you could play the Revolutionary Army package. I don't think it works as well in a Dragon deck than it would Bello Betty, but this kind of makes more sense than the Bello Betty effect, because Bello Betty gives plus 3k, which makes a lot of the Revolutionary Army characters 8k. I'm guessing Dragon was the initial leader designed for these 7k breakpoints, but we'll have to see what other cards they print in red for the set. So because of that, I'm gonna have to put Dragon in the they give up on dual color red leaders because they designed themselves into a hole where it doesn't synergize with any other color tier. Up next is Jewelry Bonnie. It's a new green leader, 5000 power and 5 starting life, mono green. Her effect reads, when an opponent attacks once per turn for the price of 1 Dawn, you can rest up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters. We get another mono green supernova leader. She has to compete with Eustace Kid from starter deck 2. Her effect would probably lead you to play more of like a stall style of deck. And the way I think her leader ability works is that your opponent will always get 1 attack off at least, as you can't rest an already rested leader or character that's attacking you, but then you can prevent a 2nd attack at least. Much like Green Black Perona and OP06, this does lend to synergies with cards like OP01 X-Drake, where it can KO a rested character on play, but you don't have access to the cost reduction in black that Perona has. And then they are printing new Supernova cards. So in OP07 we get this Basil Hawkins character. He basically gains blocker, and then when your opponent tries to remove Basil Hawkins from the board, you can rest an opponent's character to prevent that KO, or even a bottom deck. So very sticky blocker here for the Supernova leaders. And him being able to rest a character means that you can essentially rest up to 2 characters between your leader and Basil Hawkins. And then from EB01 we also have Cavendish here, another Supernova character. On play or when attacking, if your leader has a Supernova type and there's no other Cavendishes on the field, you can basically untap 2 of your Dawn. This makes it so that your Bonnie's leader ability is always available on your opponent's turn. So this card synergizes well with Bonnie as well. Then of course I think the best top end for this kind of deck is Don Quixote Doflamingo. Between your Basil Hawkins resting characters and your leader resting characters, you can play Doflamingo to keep them rested for another turn, essentially locking out your opponent's board. This is the general strategy of Perona decks too, so I feel like It might work even better in a Bonnie deck, because Perona can only rest 4 costs on lower characters, meanwhile Bonnie and Hawkins can rest any cost. So because of that, Bonnie is going to be in the an excuse to print more support for starter deck 2 Eustace Kid tier. Next up we have Boa Hancock, mono blue leader with 5000 power and 5 starting life. He's a 7 Warlords type and a Kuja Pirates. Her leader effect reads, during your turn, once per turn, you may activate this when a character leaves play from one of your abilities. If you have 5 or less cards in hand, draw 1 card. So being a blue leader, you're going to always be compared to blue-black Sakazuki. You don't have access to black like Sakazuki does to play some of the lower costed removal effects like Helmblaze and Ama no Murakumo. So I would think that Bo might play more similarly to mono blue Crocodile, starter deck 3 Crocodile. So you're trading out that bounce effect for a card draw effect in the late game, which might be better actually. So you'll probably rely more on cards like the 7 cost Porcelino and Mihawk, your traditional blue removal cards from way back, since you don't have access to black. So because of that, Boa might be any blue card printed for this deck just makes Sakazuki stronger tier. Moving on to Foxy, we're finally getting Long Ring Island cards that we've been anticipating for quite a while now. So he is a mono purple leader with 5000 power and 5 starting life with the Foxy Pirates type. His leader ability reads, when attacking, if you return 3 Dawn to your Dawn deck, if you have 3 or more Foxy Pirates characters in play, choose up to one of each of your opponent's rested leaders and characters. The cards you chose do not become active during their owner's next refresh phase. So kind of like 10 cost Flamingo, he can lock down 2 targets between their leader and characters. This is a strong effect as we play cards like OP06 Arlong to prevent your leader from attacking. There's a lot of cards with very strong when attacking abilities in the meta, with cards like Gecko Moria, and even Sakazuki gets -1 cost when attacking. And Katakuri gets buffed 7k attacks too, so this is a good way to prevent those. We have 1 card revealed so far for the Foxy Pirates archetype, Portia. She is a Foxy Pirate Searcher on play. If you return 1 Dawn, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a Foxy Pirates card and then put it into your hand. And then you can cheat it out if it's 4k power or less. Or you can cheat out any purple character actually, but in a Foxy deck, you'll probably be cheating out another Foxy character. So it's not hard to meet the 3 character threshold for Foxy. But the thing is, it's -1 Dawn for Portia and then -3 Dawn for your leader ability. That is quite a lot of minus Dawn. So whether this will be a viable strategy or not, would really depend on the rest of the support that they print out for the Foxy Pirates archetype. So because of that, Foxy will have to be in the purple going back to being guinea pigs for strategies that won't work until they print a buffed version under a different color. Next up we have Rob Lucci. We have another Lucci leader. A lot of Lucci cards in the game, I feel. So Rob Lucci is a mono black leader with 5000 power and 5 starting life. He is a CP0 type card leader. His leader ability reads, when attacking, you may trash the top 2 cards of your deck. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost for this turn. So it's mill 2 for -1. A lot of these CP cards do require cards in the discard to activate, so this is a good way to just dump cards in your discard. But is just -1 cost enough to make this card worth it? Considering cards like Perona and Sakazuki can just give -1 cost for free. But granted, they are dual color leaders with 1 less life. But to be honest, I'm a little underwhelmed by this leader ability. I wish it also like buffed another CP card on field or something, so that strategies like this Stussy that they printed in OP04 might be viable, where you can just cheat out a bunch of small CP characters and then buff them with your leader ability to attack. Make sort of like an aggro CP deck. But it seems like that support is not the way that they're going. I thought this might have been like their doorway to like start exploring that playstyle for the CP archetype, but sadly disappointed in that regard. So for that, Lucci will have to be in the that's it. At least buff a CP character too, so the weenie build can be viable tier. And lastly, we have Vegapunk, our new yellow leader. He has 5000 power and 2 starting life, so already a little suspicious on what yellow gimmicks there are, since he only has 2 life. As we know, Enel's 4 starting life meant that he had a super armor effect built into his leader ability. So he's an egghead/scientist leader. His leader ability reads, this leader cannot attack. Activate main once per turn for 1 Dawn. Place up to 1 cost 5 or less card with the egghead type from your hand face up on top of your life or into play. So we get another leader that can't attack. They're going to try making this archetype viable again. Will it work in yellow? Potentially. I feel like his leader ability is pretty good. you can cheat out a 5-cost Egghead card for just 1 Dawn. So kind of better than Iceberg already. And then you can either play it out onto the field or you can heal with it. So being at 2 life isn't too bad if you can just heal yourself back up. And then they've revealed 2 yellow cards in the Egghead archetype so far at the time of the recording of this video. We have Lilith here. She is a searcher on play with the 5k stat line for 3. She can search any other Egghead card except for another Lilith. And then on trigger, if your leader is Vegapunk, you can play her out for free. So with cards like this, it's not too bad being at 2 life because you can just spend 1 Dawn to put this Lilith on your life, and then if your opponent attacks you, you get the character out for free. Then we also have this Luffy card. 5 cost 6k power, also an Egghead card. His card effect reads, activate main, you may place this character in your trash. If your life is 2 or less, KO up to one of your opponent's cost 4 or less characters, then draw 1 card. And he also has a trigger, KO up to one of your opponent's cost 4 or less characters. So with the printed Egghead archetype cards so far, I feel like being at 2 life is no issue at all. If you can fill your life with powerful triggers like this. This is a smaller Thunderbolt, but it's guaranteed. And in situations where you've healed enough life, you can just play out the Luffy as a character to attack with. But I do think we'll need to see the rest of the Egghead cards to see if it's worth it not being able to attack with leader. As all the leaders so far that can't attack, as historically all the viable leaders that can't attack have depended more on like stall style of playstyles, which yellow is great at actually, so we might see Vegapunk be viable like Rebecca was back in OP04. Especially with how busted a lot of the yellow support is available by the time of OP07. So because of that, I'm going to put Vegapunk in the yet another problematic yellow leader that can heal and control their triggers tier. So that's our speculative tier list for OP07. Which character am I the most excited for? Well, they're all actually pretty interesting, except for Lucci. I would be excited to try out a dragon deck, finally play a good red deck in OP07 potentially. There's the hope. Then Bonnie for a stall style of Supernova play, but I could just end up using cards that they print for Bonnie in my Kid deck, because I think the viability of Kid might go up if they print more Supernova support. Blue Boa would be fun to play more of a traditional style of blue deck finally. Hopefully it can rival Sakazuki. And Foxy would just be probably a meme deck, but could be viable. We'll have to hold up hope. And then for Vegapunk, they still haven't printed out too many counters for yellow's trigger mechanics, so I think any yellow leader where they can control their life like that, it's probably guaranteed that they'll still be viable in the new meta, because he has access to Egghead triggers and then the triggers that all the other yellow leaders have access to. So let me know what your favorite leaders are in OP07, what you're excited to play. I'm glad to see monocolor leaders again because it seems like dual color leaders have been getting all the love lately. And I will be excited to see what the rest of OP07 holds for us. But that will be it for this video. Thanks for watching. And if you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe. Bye.
Car D Kaizoku.